Welcome to the Volpe Report podcast, the state's premier public affairs show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians. I'm your host, Chuck Volpe. Join us now as we speak to this week's guest.
The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
On today's show, we bring you two candidates for positions on Pennsylvania's intermediate appellate courts. The status of the judiciary in Pennsylvania is very quick background. The primary level that most of you have heard of are the courts of common pleas, the judges you have in your own counties. If you have an appeal above that court, you don't get to go right to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the highest court. You go to one of the immediate appellate courts. If the matter involves the state of Pennsylvania as a party, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, or any local government, meaning a city, a county, a borough, a township, a zoning board, or the like, those cases get appealed to the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. The other court, and the other guest we have today, is a candidate for judge on the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. The Superior Court of Pennsylvania is, again, an intermediate appellate court. That hears appeals, again, from the Court of Common Pleas. That's where all cases start. Any appeal from a judgment, a trial judgment, or a judicial judgment, a judge's decree, from a Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania, the judges in the various counties. If you appeal those matters, and it doesn't involve a local jurisdiction, a city, a county, a borough, township, zoning board, or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but is a dispute between citizens, between businesses, or all criminal cases, those go on appeal above the Court of Common Pleas to the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. Those are the appellate courts, the intermediate appellate courts. And we have our guest today. We have two guests. Each is a candidate for each. One is a candidate. Attorney Matt Wolford is a candidate for the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. And sitting current president judge of Chester County, a Court of Common Pleas judge, she is a candidate for the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. So now that we got that out of the way, let's first talk about the Honorable Judge Anne-Marie Wheatcraft. As I mentioned, she is the president judge of the Court of Common Pleas of Chester County. She aspires to be elected to the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. Anne-Marie has served on the bench for 14 years. In addition to her extensive experience as a trial court judge, that's only the beginning of her qualifications. She has also presided over Chester County's treatment courts, including drug treatment, recovery, mental health court, and veterans courts. She also checks the box as a tough criminal prosecutor, serving as an assistant district attorney of Chester County. She has prosecuted cases including armed robbery, rape, as well as first-degree murder cases. Anne-Marie is a past president of the Pennsylvania Association of Trial Lawyers and is a current executive board member. Her undergraduate degree was from Penn State University, and then she went on to receive her Juris Doctorate degree from the University of New Hampshire School of Law. Anne-Marie has two grown children, a son who is a police officer and a daughter who is currently in medical school. Our second guest, attorney Matt Wolford, is a candidate for the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. Matt's credentials are also excellent. He has served as a regional counsel for the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, as well as a special criminal prosecutor for the Office of Attorney General of Pennsylvania, prosecuting environmental crimes. He has also been appointed to serve as a special prosecutor for the United States Department of Justice, prosecuting environmental crimes. He is a published author in the Pennsylvania Bar Institute's book on the law of oil and gas in Pennsylvania. Matt has also served as an adjunct professor at Gannon University, where he taught a class in environmental law. Matt also was a graduate of Pennsylvania State University, and he received his Juris Doctorate from Temple University School of Law. Matt and his wife Marion have 4 children. They are both excellent candidates for our intermediate appellate courts, and we are pleased to be able to bring both of them to you today as they talk about their aspirations and their credentials.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial. The area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Well, first of all, welcome to the Volpe Report. I was about to say judges, but we'll say Judge Wheatcraft. You are a sitting president judge, of course, of Chester County, and attorney Matt Wolford, pursuing a judgeship. Matt, you are pursuing judgeship on the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania, and Judge Wheatcraft, you are pursuing a position on the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. Two high appellate court courts in Pennsylvania. And just by a quick procedural history for our audience, the level of the judiciary in Pennsylvania, the minor judiciary or the district magistrate level is the first level. You go above that, you get to the all-powerful trial court judges of the Court of Common Pleas, of which you are Judge Wheatcraft with your background experience. And when you get above that level of the Court of Common Pleas, we are all familiar in all of our counties in Pennsylvania who the judges are in the Court of Common Pleas of their counties. When you get above that level, you get to two important appellate level courts. You get the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania, and you get the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. So let me start first, honestly, with you, Judge Wheatcraft, Anne Marie, so our audience gets to know you a little more personally.
Sure.
Talk about your background before we get into your credentials and all that. Talk a little bit about you, who you are as a person, your family, your values. Talk about that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity. I come from a family of Philadelphia firefighters and plumbers. My mom's side of the family, her dad and her brother were both Philadelphia firefighters. My uncle retired after, I think, 40 years as a lieutenant from Philadelphia Fire Department. My grandfather retired after 25 years and started his own plumbing business. So I have a lot of ties in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. My parents both lived in Troop in Lackawanna County. My dad was retired as the chief psychiatrist from Clark Summit State Hospital. So they lived in that area for about 16 years. I went to high school in Montgomery County and Delaware County. I went to Penn State, graduated from there in the winter of 1988. I worked for about 3 years in mental health and drug and alcohol field, and then decided I wanted to be an FBI agent. And at that time in 1990, they were looking for accountants and lawyers. So I decided to do the law school route because I was not going to be an accountant.
Right.
And I went to law school in New Hampshire. It's the University of New Hampshire now. It was Franklin Pierce Law Center back then. And after I met my husband in law school. And after I graduated, I worked for a little while for the federal government for the Resolution Trust Corporation, which was part of the FDIC when they were investigating the failed savings and loan crisis. And then I stayed home with my children. I had my first son while I worked there, and I stayed home with my kids for about 5 years, did some estate planning work during the time that I was home. And at this point, my son is 30 and is a police officer here in Chester County. And my daughter is 28 and a medical student at the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. And she'll be graduating in next April.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Oh,
That's
very
wonderful.
excited.
Yeah, I'm sure. Let me turn to you now, Attorney Matt Wolford. You are running for that Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. You have a exceptional background, as does Judge Wheatcraft, of course. Talk a little bit about your background, your family, and your roots.
Thank you. I've been married for 32 years, and we have 4 kids. They're all college grads now and pursuing their careers, which is nice to have the college stuff out of the way.
No doubt.
Going back, I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania. That's where I'm from now. I didn't think I was going to come back to Erie. That's just kind of how things worked out. So after graduating from high school, I went to Penn State. Also, we're both Penn Staters, which is nice. In fact, I was just back there last Wednesday, so it was a fun. I always have a good time going back to Penn State.
State College is a great place.
Oh, it's awesome. We were at the Nittany Lion Inn, which is one of my favorite places. So,
Yeah.
so then I went to Temple Law School in Philadelphia, and I didn't think I was going to come back to Erie. I was kind of going to be a big shot lawyer in Philadelphia when I was done with Temple, and I started practicing briefly for a small firm in Philadelphia, and I wanted to get into court. And my dad, he was a lawyer up in Erie, and I asked him, yeah, how do I get into court? Because it's like all the older attorneys are getting into court, and I'm just, sort of writing memos. And he said, you should join this place called the Office of Attorney General Torts Litigation Section. Because he said, I have basically kids in the courtroom against me, and they don't have that much experience, but they're there. And so they're learning a lot. So you want to go work there. So I got a job with the Attorney General's Office Torts Litigation Section in Philadelphia. And we covered 5-county area, including Philly, Delaware, Montgo, Chester, Bucks. Is that 5?
Covered them.
Anyway,
You got it.
and what we did is personal injury defense. And so if somebody sues the state police because of one of the car accidents you're talking about, of course, that goes to Commonwealth Court. Somebody sues PennDOT, goes to Commonwealth Court. And so I started getting into Commonwealth Court early in my career. My first case that I argued in front of Commonwealth Court was in 1989. I was defending PennDOT at the time. So my dad died, and I was driving back and forth from Philly to Erie to try to help out with personal family stuff, and that's a long drive. And so I thought, well, I'll take a transfer to the Western District, which is in Pittsburgh, for a couple years, and then resume my legal career back in Philly. There were no positions open in the tort section, and so I ended up getting a job with the Attorney General's Office Environmental Crime Section in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and I became an environmental crimes prosecutor, and I did that for several years. I opened up the field office in Meadville. Then after I left, they ended up closing the field office, and that was under Attorney General Ernie Priate. So I liked doing the environmental work. It was kind of a surprise to me. I enjoyed that, and most environmental work is not criminal, and so I took a job with it used to be called the DER, the Department of Environmental Resources. Now it's called DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. So I transferred to the Meadville office. I was the water lawyer, which is also the oil and gas lawyer, for about 4 years. And I was getting ready to leave government service, and I was promoted to being regional counsel, which meant I was in charge of the office. So I did that for a few more years, and then I left. And that was about 25 years ago. And I litigated a lot against the DEP now. I kind of fight with them for representing my private clients on the other side. And I do, I represent individuals, businesses, farmers, landowners, that sort of thing. Anybody that's in the regulated community, if the DEP is taking enforcement action, or a lot of times it's just permitting matters, environmental cleanups, things like that. So I do all different kinds of environmental matters. I also do some zoning cases, homeowners association cases, which is an odd thing that they happen to also go to the Commonwealth Court, which I didn't realize when I started doing some of that. Some easement disputes, things like that. And so I've been doing that for 25 years. I met my wife somewhere along the way in that journey that I just described. She's from Western Pennsylvania, and she wanted to stay in Western Pennsylvania. She's from Pittsburgh. And so we sort of compromised and came back to Erie. And so we've been here for 30 years, 25 to 30 years, something like that.
Well, both great answers. And that takes us to our first commercial break, our only break, really. When we come back after that break, a short one, we're going to get into some of your credentials relative to your offices. Judge Wheatcraft, of course, extensive experience as a prosecutor, criminal prosecutor, district attorney experience. And then Matt, from your standpoint, going to Commonwealth Court, your extensive experience in the Commonwealth Court as a practicing lawyer, gives you a tremendous amount, I would think, advantage in your race, because you have a special knowledge of how the court operates, not only procedurally as a practicing lawyer before it, but the rules and standards that they must adhere to as far as precedent goes. So both have exceptional credentials for your office. We'll be right back after this message.
There are more places you can watch the Volpe Report, your premier political talk show. Tune in to Fox 56 every Sunday morning at 10:30 as we bring prominent national and state officials right into your living room. Or watch on YouTube at the Volpe Report, where you get full access to all of our episodes, wherever you are. Our guests are the newsmakers, the decision makers, the people who shape the policies that affect us all. We dive deep into what matters most to Pennsylvanians with in-depth interviews that give you the full picture. We're dedicated to providing you with unfiltered, thought-provoking conversations. Whether it's local policy, national politics, or everything in between, we're right here to break it down and keep you informed. So wherever you want to watch, the Volpe Report is always here for you, delivering everything you need to know in today's political landscape.
Judge Wheatcraft, Anne Marie, so our audience gets familiar with your first name too. You're a candidate for Superior Court, which we've just spent time talking about how it's distinguishable from the Commonwealth Court, which Attorney Wolford is going to talk about in a second. But Judge Wheatcraft, back to you. The thing about Superior Court, I do have some experience with Superior Court. As I said, I clerked for the Superior Court. And I handled mostly criminal stuff. But the Superior Court, as I said, handles not only all criminal stuff, it handles everything else that's not governmental, which is mean you have an extensive workload. Obviously, as a Court of Common Pleas judge, you have all of it. You have civil trials. You've seen everything. You have, zoning appeals before it gets to Commonwealth Court are in your office. And, of course, you handle criminal stuff. You've prosecuted capital cases and other things. You have that kind of experience, which means you're especially uniquely qualified for the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. But talk a little bit about your experience and what you see as the issues that we face in Pennsylvania that you'll be dealing with on that court, because you've seen all of it as a Court of Common Pleas judge.
So, and let me just correct you on one thing. I never had a capital case. I had several murder cases that I tried, but I did not have any death penalty cases.
I stand corrected. I should have said murder ones and yes, murder cases, but not capital. Thank you.
Yeah. So Superior Court's docket is about 60% criminal. And that has been the bulk of my experience, which is very convenient. And of course, they also hear family, which I've also spent many, many years hearing family cases, dependency, and then civil. So I have worked in all of the areas that Superior Court hears. And that's going to be very convenient going in. As a trial court, so I'm in my 14th year as a judge now, I have been in it. So I've been a litigator where I was a prosecutor trying cases. I tried about 50 jury trials. So more than having just had the job of an assistant district attorney, I tried lots of cases, serious cases, and then presided over very serious cases, and all of the others. That experience is really invaluable when it comes to reviewing the work of other trial courts. So ensuring that that cases are moving through the system as quickly as possible. We always hear complaints about the fact that court moves slow, and it does. But part of the appellate court's job is to make sure that it moves as quickly as it can. And then just ensuring that judges are applying the appropriate law, that they're applying only the law, that they're not legislating from the bench. Those are the things that Superior Court is reviewing and looking out for.
Excellent. Matt Wolford, back to you. Talk a little bit about some of your specific knowledge and some of the things that resonate for you that you'll be able to actually utilize when you get to the Commonwealth Court.
Okay, sure. So when we started our discussion earlier, my first job in a litigation context was the Attorney General's office. Those cases were all sovereign immunity cases primarily. I mean, you get into the merits of each type of case, but a lot of times they're all about sovereign immunity, whether there's been a waiver. And so those cases are all uniquely appealed to the Commonwealth Court. So that's when I started working there. And the Commonwealth Court is sort of an interesting court, well, in many ways, but one of the things that makes it different, it's also a trial court. So, and a lot of people don't know that the government can bring cases there, and people can bring cases against the government. I have, it's called the original jurisdiction. I have a case right now in front of the Commonwealth Court acting as a trial court. And it's an interesting issue because I think that they're actually acting as an appellate court, and we're going to find out if I'm right.
Right.
But so because of the way that the Commonwealth Court deals with government regulation, one of the shorthands that I've heard that makes sense to me is that the Superior Court protects people from each other, and the Commonwealth Court protects people from the government.
Well stated.
Because what it deals with is regulations. You know, the government regulates things, and I think we can all agree that a certain amount of regulation is necessary. You know, in the environmental area, for example, we don't want raw sewage going into streams. We don't want the street lights in Pittsburgh to turn on at noon because there's so much soot in the air. So we have to have regulation, but we reach a point where you have maybe too much regulation, and now it's starting to interfere with our ability to become competitive, you know, against Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland, other states that are overregulated. And so this is what the Commonwealth Court does. A lot of its work is to call the balls and strikes on how much is enough regulation and how much is too much regulation. And I'm particularly interested in that topic. In terms of my background, I obviously worked for the DEP for a while, and I've been working against the DEP for a long time. And I work with the DEP. It's not always a sort of a hostile type, an adversarial type of relationship. Sometimes we're working together on behalf of my clients and the DEP. So, but part of my background, in addition to the DEP stuff, I also have represented clients against the Underground Storage Tank Indemnification Fund. I participated in the Independent Regulatory Review Commission proceedings. That's how you make regulations, which the Commonwealth Court deals with a lot. I've had zoning cases in front of the Commonwealth Court. I had one. I was representing an oil and gas company on a zoning matter. The municipality was trying to keep oil and gas out of the municipality, and they were using zoning to do it. We won that case. That's the New Century Pipeline case.
Right.
And so I've had all kinds of different cases that work their way up in front of Commonwealth Court, and whether it's as a trial court or as an appeals court. I sit on the Pennsylvania Environmental Hearing Board Rules Committee, and they deal with the rules that are applied as when the EHB acts as a trial court, which from there then goes to the Commonwealth Court. So I'm pretty steeped in all of this stuff on both sides.
Right. Excellent. Judge, back to you for a second. I want to make sure I get this correct, because I know about the AOPC, but I always botch what that stands for, the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts. But talk a little bit about your background with that as well.
So AOPC is in charge of all continuing judicial education and education of newly elected common pleas judges. So the Supreme Court has ordered, actually after I was elected judge, the order came down requiring judges to get continuing legal education. But I have been, since 2016, I've been asked to teach newly elected common pleas judges about criminal court and how to be criminal court judges. So I've been doing that work. I also work with AOPC on the continuing judicial education board or committee, and I was appointed to that by the Supreme Court.
Oh, well, that's excellent. And as we run out of time, back to you, Matt Wolford. Your view of the role of a judge on the Commonwealth Court and why you're especially qualified to be that.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of labels that are floating around out there. You hear terms like originalist or strict constructionist, that they all sort of connote the same thing, is that you actually have to read what's on the paper, figure out if it's a constitutional thing, what the framers intended originally, and then figure out how that would apply in the context that you're trying to apply it. Statutes are very similar, the laws that Congress creates or that our General Assembly creates. You want to find out first, what does it say? And what was the legislative intent behind it? And you don't legislate from the bench. You don't try to substitute a court for the legislature when it comes to policy. The legislature's job is to set policy, not the courts. My view goes a little bit past that. It's called judicial restraint, and also includes things like, if you have a case where you're looking at whether or not a statute is constitutional and there's a conflict in the language of it, if you can avoid a constitutional question by reaching a different result. You should do that so that you don't have a problem with the constitutionality of a statute. You can avoid, striking down pieces if there's a way to interpret it that avoids a constitutional conflict. You should do that. So judicial restraint also, I'm totally opposed to what you were talking about, district court judges, issuing mandamus orders against the president of the United States. I mean, I don't understand the whole thing. We were, Judge Wheatcraft and I were talking about this not too long ago. If you look at the Constitution, the federal Constitution, the only court that was created was the Supreme Court. The rest were created by statute, Congress. Exactly. They could solve this problem very quickly and easily just by amending the statute to say a district court only has authority in the district court's jurisdiction. And so now you're not having someone from Seattle, issuing an order against the president of the United States in Washington. No. And what that would do is it would change the onus. So instead of the onus being on, the executive branch to say, hey, you shouldn't do this and then take that to the Supreme Court, if a district court feels strongly enough about it, let the district court go through the appeals process. But in the meantime, the president of the United States would not be subject to the order. And it seems to me that that's a fairer and better way to do it. Otherwise, you have the judicial branch being superior to the executive branch, and that was not the intent of our framers.
Thanks for that great concluding statement, Counselor. Back to Judge Wheatcraft, though. Same question, talk to the voters now why they should pick you to be on the Superior Court. They've heard about your qualifications, your view of a judge's role in society and on that court, and why you'd be a good one.
Well, and I do completely agree with Matt and the need for the judges to stay in their lane and not be legislating from the bench or massaging the facts or the law so that it fits the result that they want to see. I'm somebody who brings conservative values to our bench. I'm somebody who has a tremendous amount of experience. I'm also somebody who has been very involved with our treatment courts, which I think is a huge win-win for everybody. Treatment courts allow us to save money for taxpayers, but they also allow us to reunite families by getting people who are involved in the criminal justice system because of substance use disorder or mental health issues. It allows us to keep those people out of jail and get them the help they need. So the Superior Court is making more and more decisions related to policies that relate to things like treatment courts. Probation reform was something that was just recently passed by the legislature. Those are the kinds of cases that are going to be coming before Superior Court soon, I expect. So the experience I have and the expertise I have, both as a litigator and as a trial court judge, make me extremely well-suited to be on the Superior Court. It's essentially a promotion for me. I've been doing the work that I will then be reviewing. And that is why I'm asking for the support.
Well, again, great closing argument. It looks like you made a few of them in your day. It comes across that way. So, again, I wish the both of you the tremendous success. You made a great accounting for yourselves. I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yep. Appreciate your time and all your help.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Godspeed on your election. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Volpe Report podcast. Be sure to visit our YouTube and Facebook pages for upcoming episodes. You can catch up on the Volpe Report podcast on your favorite podcast provider.